Welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka, bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. For more information on Mission Evolution Radio with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit www.missionevolution.org. And now, here's the host of Mission Evolution, Miss Gwilda Wiyaka.
Hello. Thanks for joining us once again on Mission Evolution. We're coming to you on X-Zone TV and Simul TV from our broadcast studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, bringing the latest evolutionary information from today's leading experts. This hour will explore embodying genius. Most of us see genius as coming from the head. Yet in recent years, it's been discovered that the brain is not only located in the cranium, but in other parts of the body, like the heart, the gut, the spine. What other untapped mysteries and superpowers can be found within the body itself? And more importantly, how can we access and integrate them to become all we can be? With us this hour to delve into the gifts of the true embodiment is Philip Shepard. Philip is the author of 2 books, Radical Wholeness and New Self, New World, and co-author of Deep Fitness. He also originated the Embodied Present Process, which is taught online as well as in workshops, retreats, and facilitator trainings worldwide. His website, embodiedpresent.com. Philip, thanks for joining us on Mission Evolution.
It is such a pleasure to be here, Gwilda. Thank you.
So, Philip, what's your educational background? How did you end up getting into embodiment?
Well, there's the question, educational background and formal educational background. And I'll go with the first because, I got to the end of high school and my life's path was laid out before me. Go to university, and I'd been accepted at University of Toronto to study physics, and then you get a job and get married and get a house and have kids. Or I could go to England and buy a bicycle and head off for Japan. And that's what I did. And I think the educational value of that even exceeded what I would have had from U of T. So to answer your question more directly, my whole life has been in theater as an actor, a director, and a writer. And especially as an actor, the question that is absolutely central to the actor's craft is how to be fully present to what is here now. And every exercise that an actor undertakes of any value is another way of gaining perspective on that question. So embodiment is indispensable to that quality of being present.
So it doesn't, as an actor, don't you have to kind of embody the character?
Yeah.
You have to move like them, talk like them.
Yeah. But every one of those characters lives within me. And so I can just amplify that frequency within me, and my body changes, however it needs to carry that frequency.
That's the skill that we see in people that are so able to imitate somebody else.
Yeah.
My son's really good at that. So, it sounds just like the person you're going. Ever since he was small, it's kind of a talent, a skill, isn't it?
Yeah, and a sensitivity as well. To be sensitive to that rhythm and the mannerisms and the gestalt of that person. Absolutely.
Is it easy to lose yourself within that?
There are kind of 2 ways you can go. There is the possibility of becoming the character by losing yourself. And there's also the possibility of finding the character within yourself. And that's how I tend to go. So I am me at every moment. I'm just a narrower spectrum of me, if you will.
Or a different facet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, interesting. So this is a skill that without being able to embody, become embodied, you simply can't access that skill. Is that correct?
You've heard actors described as wooden. Well, if you're not embodied, that wooden quality is what the audience sees. And, you know, it's the effect of sitting in your head and operating yourself like a puppet. So the actor is bound in self-consciousness, because if you are conscious of the self in that way, it is the very definition of self-consciousness.
So, so we're on the same page. Let's define embodiment a little more thoroughly. We've been talking about how an actor does it, but what is embodiment exactly?
For me, embodiment is the quality of the whole of your intelligence coming into coherence with the present. And when I say the whole of your intelligence, I'm not talking about this secluded fragment of the intelligence in the head. I mean, every cell in your body participates in your mindful processing of the present, and to bring congruence to that intelligence, and then to bring that intelligence into coherence with the present. To me, that is embodiment.
It seems that we as a culture have gotten a long way from embodiment.
I,
What happened?
not a long way, but I mean, it's an old story. It's not a new thing. You go back to Plato, so we're talking 350 BC, and he's got a dialogue, Timaeus. And in this dialogue, the very wise Timaeus is asked, how did the gods fashion us? And his answer is very telling, because he said, well, first, they fashioned this divine orb based on the heavenly spheres. And then they realized this divine orb, the head, wouldn't be able to get around. So they grew it a vehicle, arms and legs and a trunk. So that's 350 BC. And we're already demeaning the body as the mere vehicle that carries the head around. And for me, it's an old transition that began 8,000 years ago, when we were gathered around the mother. We felt the goddess in the earth, and our allegiance was to the earth itself. And what happened was, as we discovered agriculture, we shifted our allegiance from paying attention to the world and feeling its guidance to controlling the world. And in that agenda of control, what happened is the mother was no longer the center, the father was. And the earth was no longer the realm of the goddess, the sky was, and it's no longer a goddess, it's a god. And this whole shift in our allegiance shows up in how we experience the body. So if you look at the art and customs of the early Neolithic and writings, in Homer, you find that we used to feel our thinking in the belly, which seems absurd to us now, but there is a brain in the belly. And I teach people how to drop into that and be aware of the world from there. And what happened was, you can trace the rise of that center of consciousness up to the chest in Homer's day. So he uses this word. Very few people commented on it, but it's PHREN, freen, and it means mind. It also means diaphragm.
Oh,
They
interesting.
experience their thinking there. And there's one translator, my favorite translator of Homer, Richmond Lattimore, who will have a character say, the mind within my breast understands your words, which has such fidelity to that experience. And then, of course, by Plato's day, we are in our heads. But it is that shift in a survival strategy between trusting the earth and its gifts, and knowing with delicacy and precision how to harvest those gifts, into an agenda of control.
So we went from goddess-centered, earth-centered. Then we started agriculture, which pulled us slightly away from that. But still, you find if you're talking with a farmer or a rancher, they tend to be pretty grounded. They work within the seasons. They work within the day and night. They work with animals and learn their habits. So there is still a connection. Let's take us one step further away where we have everybody that's in their cubicles working on computers, maybe never been out in nature beyond a walk in the park when they were a kid. What's happened there?
Um, it's been a long process through which we have come to mistrust the female and more importantly the female within each of us. I mean, each of us carries male and female, and to empower the male to be in charge. So even, in a farming family, traditionally the farmer is the one who does the work and he's in charge, and the woman tends to look after the children and take care of the chickens and things. It's our allegiance to the head is ancient. And in our language, you talk about two heads are better than one, or you talk about you getting to headquarters and maybe being a CEO. And CEO, Chief Executive Officer, chief is a word that comes from the Latin word for head. Or you're the captain of a football team. Captain is a word that comes from the Latin word for head. There is no hierarchy in which the leader is not the head of that hierarchy. It is bred into our neurology that the head should be in charge. And I feel my head as the male pole of my consciousness. And I honestly feel the pelvic bowl as a grounded, attuned, relational intelligence that I feel is the female pole of my intelligence. And what in that migration to the head, we have followed the path of the mythological tyrant. So Joseph Campbell talks about the tyrant as the man of self-achieved independence. And I mean, that doubles as a description of the American dream. Self-achieved independence. What could be better? That's what we tug for. That's what we long for. And what we're longing for is the tyrant's version of success. And so we end up in our cubicles, which is like a tyrant's fortress, or in our living rooms, contracted away from the world that we so deeply mistrust.
And mistreat.
And mistreat. And
Yeah.
mistreat.
And mistreat.
Absolutely.
And mistreat. So we have just a little bit of time in this segment, but you say our culture is disembodied. What do you mean by that?
The body is an afterthought. We pay attention to the body when it hurts, or we pay attention to the body when it insults our vanity. But even then, when we work out, we're sitting in our head, making the body do this exercise for its own good. And, I teach a completely different approach to exercise, which is no longer like sitting on a donkey, beating it to go harder. You can actually drop into the body and slow down and release the body with the breath to do that work. And it's a completely different experience. So our relationship with the body through every religion in the world has been demeaned. The body is this burden that we will cast off as we ascend. And our whole inclination, because of this evolution in our consciousness that's brought us up to the head, that impulse to go higher is also embedded in our culture. That if you're looking up today, you know what I mean when I say that. In another culture, that can mean you're looking a little ungrounded and flighty. Are you okay? Right?
Are
But
you
no,
okay?
up is
Well,
good. Raise
we're,
your consciousness, and
we're going to
it's
we're
all
gonna
away from the earth.
we're gonna have to take that break. So don't go away. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org.
Question: what is the name of the unique blend of coffee you get that has been formulated by a neurologist, a neurobiologist, and a pharmaceutical chemist? Answer: you get Beautiful Mind Coffee, a unique coffee blend that tastes great and has herbal ingredients that your brain will love, and it is not just coffee, it's brainalicious. Dr. Rathbone, Dr. Jang, and Dr. Winslow, the scientific team that created Beautiful Mind Coffee, decided to collaborate on a coffee focusing on brain health. As for those herbal ingredients found in Beautiful Mind Coffee, Dr. Rathbone, Dr. Jang, and Dr. Winslow, utilizing their combined extensive scientific research background, worked with many natural and herbal products until the exact formulation that is found in Beautiful Mind Coffee was created. With a unique scientific formula not found in any other coffee being sold or served, Beautiful Mind Coffee is the only coffee blend that contains 3 herbal ingredients found to aid in boosting your daily mental clarity and focus. Every cup of Beautiful Mind Coffee contains scientifically formulated amounts of maca root powder, green tea extract, and American ginseng, all supporting good brain health. Taking care of your brain's health now can help delay or prevent the onset of cognitive dysfunction, including dementia, Alzheimer's, and more general memory loss as you get older, just by enjoying the delicious flavor of our roasted coffee and herbal ingredients found exclusively in Beautiful Mind Coffee. Did you know that cognitive dysfunction also refers to deficits in attention, verbal and non-verbal learning, short-term and working memory, visual and auditory processing, problem-solving, processing speed, and motor functioning? For more on Beautiful Mind Coffee, the 3 scientists who formulated Beautiful Mind Coffee, and more details on the 3 unique herbal ingredients in Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca. Beautiful Mind Coffee is now available online at amazon.ca and amazon.com. To order Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca today.
Hello again. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. With us this hour discussing radical wholeness is Philip Shepard. His website, embodiedpresent.com. Philip, we were talking about let's look at the result of becoming disembodied. What's the result of our whole culture becoming disembodied? What do you see there?
Oh, wow. We feel ourselves separate from nature. We feel ourselves separate from the present. So it's like I'm in here inside this body and the present is out there. And we speak in our culture about essentially everyone's alone. And the nature of our reality is that our presence in this world is felt by everything. What we feel, what we think is felt by everything. And if you buy into that sort of illusion or delusion that you're essentially alone, there's a set, it's like a set of dominoes that starts to fall. So if I'm alone, then my experience is strictly private. And if that's the case, then my number one job in life is to organize it, to make it successful. So I take this spotlight of my attention and I turn it off the world, and the world sort of gets cast in darkness, and I put it on myself. And now I get busy organizing myself, and I have bound myself in a prison of self-consciousness where I'm watching myself and second guessing myself and correcting myself and commenting on myself. And in the meantime, the world becomes this separate terrain that I need to navigate my way through and find leverage to help with my success. And the number one relationship that I have in the whole of my life is now between the divided parts of myself. And I spend more time in the day thinking about my thoughts about the world than I do actually feeling the world around me. And if you stop feeling the world, you stop being responsive to it. And then you stop being responsible. You lose the ability to respond as it's asking you to. The world of nature moves with an exquisite harmony, and what we end up doing is not just neglecting that harmony, but actually starting to undermine it.
Well, in the long run, it's pretty clear who's going to win that little equation, right? Is that part of what we're looking at in this global crisis we have going on with the weather and everything else?
Yeah, our imperative is growth. And you look at capitalism, which means literally headism, and it's a disaster if the GDP, if there's not growth. Well, it's a disaster for the economy, and it's a boon for nature. And it's a disaster if the population gets static or grows smaller, heaven forbid. Well, again, it's a boon for nature, but it's a disaster for this economic structure on which we've come to depend. And when you commit yourself to exponential growth, the only terminus possible is collapse. You can't grow endlessly on a finite planet.
So if we start to become embodied and we start to pay attention to the cycles of the earth and embody those, can that prove to be an antidote to the continued growth until we crash?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you how I feel it is that when you're disembodied, when you leave the body and take up residence in the head, you leave this emptiness within you, this emptiness that needs to be filled. And so we fill it with distractions, we fill it with drugs or alcohol, we fill it with whatever we can find. We are on an addictive culture that is driven. And when you're a driven addict, you lay waste to what is around you, to your relationships. And
Everything.
to
Hmm.
come back to the body, to come to rest in the body, is also to come to rest on the earth and in the present. And when you're not driven by that restless craving, you can begin to feel the present not just as a static energy, but as a source of wisdom. And there is guidance there. And then you're no longer in your head trying to guide yourself forward. You can actually dilate into the world and feel it nudging you and suggesting to you and calling to you.
So do you think that becoming embodied can help with overcoming addiction?
Absolutely. The addictions, one of the main traits of an addict is that they feel alone in the world. Well, that's the very nature of living in the head. When you dissociate from the body and you're in this contained sphere of the head, you feel alone. You're inside here and the world is out there. And I mean, there are so many injunctions within our culture not to trust the body, to leave the body. And you add on top of that traumas of childhood, and the emptiness is intolerable. It needs to be filled. And I do think um, for any addiction, coming back to the body is a huge, huge anchor in your life.
You spoke of traumas from childhood, but don't we oftentimes store those traumas in the physical body? And is that what we have to run across in order to become embodied?
So for me, there are two stages of embodiment. And the first stage, I think of the body like a singing bowl or like a bell. And what enables that bell to ring is the emptiness within it. And when we store trauma, when we store insults within our body, it's that we cannot process them in the moment. They would overwhelm us, they would annihilate us. And so we put them on hold, and they remain there for years, for decades. But there comes a time when you found your feet, you've grown into adulthood, and you begin to feel what could not be felt earlier and integrate it. And when that singing bowl is full of these clotted energies, you lose the resonance. And so the first stage of embodiment to me is feeling those consolidations, those stuck energies, and integrating them. And in the second stage of embodiment, as I experience it, I feel my emptiness. So I feel the present within my body. I feel this realm, and I feel you passing through me. And, that's not possible without that process of integration.
But in order to run across those stored things, we have to go inward into the body, do we not?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
so how do you start to do that?
I always start with breath. And it's a bit of a complicated thing. We learn to breathe from the chest, and it's a very willful thing. And then we try to counteract that with the belly. But physiologically, the pelvic floor is a diaphragm in the body, just as the thoracic diaphragm is a diaphragm. And the pelvic floor gets locked up in our culture because of trauma, because of shame, because of that injunction to go higher and higher and not trust what is below. But if you gently, gently bring awareness to the pelvic floor and begin to feel it release to the in-breath and release to the out-breath, you will be moving through consolidations in the body. You will be softening them just to begin to feel that. Once that sensitivity in the pelvic floor is regained, you now have a place to land in the body. And I feel the pelvic floor as the ground of my being. And then any tensions I feel in the body, I feel as orphaned energy. And just like an orphan, those stuck energies, you're not going to you're not going to overcome them or force them um, to be better or come home. They need love. They need your acceptance, and you offer that. And there's a real process whereby you can bring it back down to the pelvic floor.
If a person is starting to work with breath, and isn't it likely that they could start to feel pretty overwhelmed if they had a lot of trauma they're unaware of? What do
Yeah.
you suggest doing in that case?
There are two qualities that I bring to the breath work. One is gentleness, that it has to be the gentlest thing you've ever felt in your life. And gentleness, it's when you're pushing against that bound energy that it will resist. And if you can be gentle with it and gentler with it, it will respond, in my experience. And not to, it's not, you're not going to get there in one day. It's a process. It's a long process. The other quality that's really important to me is subtlety. We're used to dealing with things in a gross or big way, and to begin to feel the subtlety of your body and to begin to trust it rather than living in the head and trying to make it do what you want it to do or make it behave, to find a way to meet it on its terms, to bring your awareness to it and let it show you what it will as gently as possible. It's just an approach that, in my experience, allows us to move forward, baby steps.
How long does it take to learn the breathing techniques that can help us become embodied?
I mean, in 15 minutes, I can generally teach someone to find that pelvic floor breath. And then there's the breath in the back, and um, the sense of the breath when it's embodied is that the breath is filling the body from the bottom up. So it's filling the body from the pelvic floor up, the way when you pour water into a jug, it fills the jug from the bottom up and then it releases out. We're so used to turning the breath into a top-down operation where somebody says, breathe deeply. And so you push the breath down into the body as far as you can. And that takes muscular effort, and the muscles get tired and the breath goes shallow again. So it's very, very different.
Are you using visualization then along with the breath work to make the corrections?
Absolutely. And that willingness to just feel what is happening as gently as you can. Yeah.
And again, I ask, do you find that if a person is really becoming challenged with what's coming up for them during this process, is it good to seek professional help?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I haven't found that necessary in the workshops I teach, but then
Well, in the workshops, they aren't alone.
they're not alone. They're with
Right.
me. They're with a group of people, and it's a very different thing.
Right.
You can take it at your own pace. I mean, that's the thing. There's no rush. Just be as gentle with it as you can and as patient, and leave it if you need to and come back to it.
Have you, in your experience, found people that discovered things about themselves that they didn't know before when they start, memories or this or that?
Yeah, and I was talking with a woman yesterday on a coaching call who talked about how she tapped anew into a realm of herself that had been buried for years by conditioning. And she just spoke so movingly about that surge of life through her body and how precious it was.
Well, it's time for us to take a little station break. Philip and I will be right back to continue exploring wholeness. So stay right there. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Hi there. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. Our guest this hour is Philip Shepard. His website, embodiedpresence.com. Philip, you speak of deeper intelligence of the body. What is that?
It's partly, I don't know if you know the work of Ian McGilchrist, who's done phenomenal work on left brain, right brain differences. And the experience of living in your head is a very left brain experience. It's what I experience as the male pole of my consciousness. It can only take in bits and pieces of the world and examine them in relationship to each other. The right brain, like the left side of the body, takes in the whole. So there is, the body processes more than 1 billion times information than we can be consciously aware of. There are reams and reams of currents passing through the body that are being processed. And so to go down to the body's intelligence, to make room for that in your awareness, it's like a quantum computer. It can feel as though you're thinking more slowly, but it's actually lightning fast. It is processing the whole rather than one prescribed realm of interest.
Does intuition, or well, let's say, for instance, um, yeah, let's go with intuition. Isn't that more of a body experience then, from
Yeah,
what you're saying?
absolutely. I mean, you speak of a gut instinct or a gut feeling. Absolutely, it's in the body. Yeah, it's where it registers, and there's 9 times more information goes from the brain in the belly, and there is a certified brain in the belly. 9 times more information goes from that up to the head than the other way around. So there's a difference, a really crucial difference between known relationships and felt relationships. And that intelligence in the head wants to know everything, wants to pin it down, know what it is, and then it can begin to strategize. And the result of that is, I look outside my window and there are trees there, and I look around, I know what everything is. So then, if I know what it is, why would I need to feel any of it? That the embodied intelligence understands felt relationship. It can feel wholeness. I mean, we struggle to feel wholeness because we're stuck in our heads, and we've forgotten what it means to speak from our wholeness, or to listen from our wholeness, or to think with the whole of our being. And that attuned intelligence, it's not that it objectively knows, but it attunes and feels in a way that we somewhat clumsily speak of as intuition, um, as though intuition needs to be checked by that smarter intelligence in the head. It is, Ian McGilchrist, whom I referred to earlier, says it is the right brain, the embodied knowing that understands reality. It is grounded in reality.
The other thing I'd like to discuss a little bit is communication. So we think of ourselves as communicating with the brain. We think of what to say, we say it, it goes out in the world. We listen with our ears, it goes into the brain, we process it. But doesn't the body communicate with the outside world all the time? And what is the mechanism of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting cultural conceit that we have, and it limits our seeing, our hearing, our communicating. So I think of there's a culture in Africa, the Anglo-Ewe culture, and they talk about hearing with the ear. They've got a word for that, but that's not real hearing. Real hearing is when you feel the sounds of the world from your body. And similarly with seeing, we stop our seeing up here. You can allow the sights of the world to move through you and feel them through the body. And similar with our speaking, the way we're taught to speak. I can speak from up here and say a whole lot of really interesting things, but there's no body behind it. So how to allow that to drop so that when I'm thinking, um, I am feeling every thought. It is resonating through the cavern of my body and being clarified and surfacing as words. So the body, because it is attuned to the whole, if we speak from there, our being is felt behind our words, the way the world of nature is felt behind each flower blossom. And it's a
So,
very different quality.
so what's the vehicle? The head has the voice and the ears, and what's the vehicle through which the body communicates with the outside world?
All there is fields. We think the world is made up of matter. I take a pen and it hits my finger, but there's no particle in the pen that is touching any particle in my finger. It's the fields are repelling each other. And every field is borderless. Every particle has a field, every planet has a field. There are electromagnetic fields, there are gravitational fields, there are fields from the heartbeat. All of these are felt by the body.
And yet
And
the
so
brain can't see them at all.
oblivious to it. Absolutely oblivious. Yeah,
That's
but
pretty
it is.
fascinating. So what portion of reality are we missing if we cannot perceive these fields?
Yeah, there's a really interesting Aboriginal writer, Ilarion Merkuliev, and he's from the Aleut culture up in the Bering Sea. And he talks about, as a child even, he could go for hours without one thought going through his head.
Hmm.
And he notes that, we've come to understand that intelligence is this worded commentary on the world. And he says, no, no, no. True intelligence is wordless. It is where you are at rest in the world, feeling everything, feeling the flow of it, feeling the flux of the present moving through you.
Can we become consciously aware and wield the ability to impact fields around us?
When somebody is really present and they walk into a room, the room shifts, just as when a really present actor moves on stage, the auditorium shifts. Yes, we and just to say, that quality of presence isn't something that is self-achieved. It is a surrender. Just as you can't achieve wholeness. Wholeness is there. Where would you go? How would you get away from it? All there is wholeness. And so the thought of achieving wholeness is really a fool's errand. You can surrender to what is there. And as you surrender to the present, it begins to guide you. And I think what people feel in an actor's presence or a dancer's presence, as the dancer's arm moves and you feel the grace of it, what you're feeling is its revelation of this moment, of this exquisite moment. It is so attuned to the whole world that you feel the world in its wholeness through that gesture. So absolutely weak, but it's not an egoic thing. It is a surrender that enables us to get there.
So it sounds like you're saying wholeness is becoming what we already are.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are qualities that as we become disembodied, we lose that are our reality. Fluidity. We're 65% water, our bodies, but we don't feel the body as a fluid medium because it's bound and compartmentalized. We're spacious. Everything. A diamond. You look inside a diamond, and it's 99.9% empty space. We are mostly empty space, but we become consolidated and congested within our bodies as we contract from the world. And we're grounded. Human being means earth being. It's what the word human means. But our legs have become prosthetics, and we strive to raise our consciousness. We stop feeling ourselves at rest on the earth. And so it's just a matter of coming back to what is. That's our reality. We are fluid. We are spacious. We are grounded. We are centered. And we lose all of that.
So let's talk a little bit about the Eastern traditions that acknowledge meridians in the body, chakras in the body. How do those play in here?
Yeah, the body has a geography to it. Its intelligence has a geography, and the chakras. It's a brilliant mapping out of these centers of knowing, I might say, in the body. And when I was a teenager, I went to Japan and studied classical Japanese no theater, and they honor, in the Japanese culture, it's called hara, the belly, as the ground of your being, as the center of your intelligence. So I had this blessing of being introduced to this aspect of my body's geography, or the geography of my intelligence, not having then to rely only on the head, to having this other resource that I could come home to and feel the world and myself in it very differently.
I understand that in Eastern medicine traditions that the hara is actually used to diagnose, and very accurately.
Absolutely. And it is, it's the center, every gesture in no theater arises from that attuned center of intelligence. Flower arrangements, poetry, it's all from that place of wholeness, unmediated by the part of us that wants to supervise and pin it down and get it right.
Fascinating. So we're about out of time in this segment, but how, when we disconnect from the body, when did we really disconnect in the first place? How long ago do you think that was?
It was a slow process. I really, it's hard in our culture to talk about allowing your thinking to rest in the belly, but that slow process whereby the center of our awareness rose through the body, and by Plato's day was in the head. We are already very left brain centric by then, and then we discover the alphabet and we begin writing, and all these ways of titillating that desire to pin things down that keeps us in that left brain.
One of the things of animal communication is body to body, and so we've disconnected from our animals as well, haven't we?
Oh, they have so much to teach us. If only we had the eyes and the ears to learn from them. Absolutely. Your dog steps out the door and there is a world we are blind to of sense that tells you everything. It's extraordinary.
People that successfully have animal companions, seeing eye dogs or search and rescue dogs, or they start to learn to get in their body to communicate back and forth. In fact, that's part of what's taught, is how to give those body messages. So I think it's pretty fascinating. I'd love to pick up with it on the other side. Are you comfortable going into that?
I would too. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Because aren't they the epitome of embodiment?
Yeah, as is a baby, a human baby. Jeez, an infant is just so awake to the world and embodied within it.
And isn't that why they seem so bright and so appealing? It's because they're
irresistible.
Absolutely, they are. Well, it is time for that commercial break. So please stay with us as Philip and I continue to explore the body as a source of genius. www.missionevolution.org.
Question: what is the name of the unique blend of coffee you get that has been formulated by a neurologist, a neurobiologist, and a pharmaceutical chemist? Answer: you get Beautiful Mind Coffee, a unique coffee blend that tastes great and has herbal ingredients that your brain will love, and it is not just coffee, it's brainalicious. Dr. Rathbone, Dr. Chang, and Dr. Winslow, the scientific team that created Beautiful Mind Coffee decided to collaborate on a coffee focusing on brain health. As for those herbal ingredients found in Beautiful Mind Coffee, Dr. Rathbone, Dr. Jang, and Dr. Winslow, utilizing their combined extensive scientific research background, worked with many natural and herbal products until the exact formulation that is found in Beautiful Mind Coffee was created. With a unique scientific formula not found in any other coffee being sold or served, Beautiful Mind Coffee is the only coffee blend that contains 3 herbal ingredients found to aid in boosting your daily mental clarity and focus. Every cup of Beautiful Mind Coffee contains scientifically formulated amounts of maca root powder, green tea extract, and American ginseng, all supporting good brain health. Taking care of your brain's health now can help delay or prevent the onset of cognitive dysfunction, including dementia, Alzheimer's, and more general memory loss as you get older, just by enjoying the delicious flavor of our roasted coffee and herbal ingredients found exclusively in Beautiful Mind Coffee. Did you know that cognitive dysfunction also refers to deficits in attention, verbal and non-verbal learning, short-term and working memory, visual and auditory processing, problem-solving, processing speed, and motor functioning? For more on Beautiful Mind Coffee, the 3 scientists who formulated Beautiful Mind Coffee, and more details on the 3 unique herbal ingredients in Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca. Beautiful Mind Coffee is now available online at amazon.ca and amazon.com. To order Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca today.
Welcome back. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. This hour, our expert guest is Philip Shepard. His website, embodiedpresent.com. Philip, we were just getting into how being embodied is necessary to communicate with animals. And would you go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, and for me, it comes down to our primary relationship, which is our relationship with our bodies. I mean, nothing is more primary than the relationship you have with your body. And when you live in your head, it's a top-down relationship. And then that shapes every relationship in the world. It's why our hierarchies are top-down and our approaches to problems are top-down. And when you live with an animal, that doesn't work. And so you have to be present to that animal. And that's what the animal is inviting you to do at every moment. And the communication, to come back to that is happening, they attune to your fear, your love, your anxiety, your needs, and will respond to that. And it's one of the most healing relationships we can have, to come back to the body and be guided by this unspoken communication that takes place between us.
We oftentimes think of it as being body language. And if you're a good animal trainer, you have to learn the animal's body language to see what's going on for them, and to let them, not give them false messages, and to let them know what's going on with you. However, do you see those fields as playing part of animal communication?
Yeah, I mean, animals feel each other, and it's not a direct relationship. Oh, the ears are high, this means that. The tail is low, this means that. It's a gestalt. Animals don't feel in bits and pieces. They feel through wholeness. And so part of that wholeness is the energy of the being, whether that being is a person or another animal. And you feel the energy, certainly through the body, but not as a sort of calculation that tabulates the body's language and comes up with an answer as to what's being said.
It's pretty fascinating. And do you believe that we as human beings could non-verbally communicate much more clearly, body to body?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of Australian Aborigines who send smoke signals, and the smoke signals, they're not like two dots and a dashes, come home. The smoke signal indicates that I need to talk to you. And you see the smoke signal, you may be 5 miles, 10 miles away, and you sit down and you commune. And that's just standard procedure. There's a great book that was turned into a theater show about a guy, a photographer, National Geographic photographer, who was lost in the Amazon following this tribe, and his life was in danger. And he heard this voice, like he didn't speak their language. They didn't speak any language he spoke. And this voice he heard, some of us are friends. And he looked across, and there's this chieftain, this old man, who is communicating with him without words. So it's not just body to body, it's field to field in ways that we have completely excluded ourselves from by this commitment to live in the head.
And parapsychology, they've always, I remember the tests and whatnot, always looking for it is read your mind. It's about the mind to mind communication, kind of missing the boat, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think there's a real confusion between mind and brain. I mean, yes, the brain is in the head. Well, there's another brain in the belly and arguably another brain in the heart, but mind suffuses the whole of your being. There's no cell that doesn't participate in its thinking.
Boy, tapping into that would expand our intelligence, I would think. Yes.
It's there is a bottomless wisdom to be. It's like a caver dropping down into a cave, spelunking. When you drop down into the body, what happens is your awareness comes to rest and then begins to dilate into the world, and you feel its wholeness intimately. I don't know how else to say it. And when you feel you're alone and you're living in your head, all you can do is guide yourself, because the body has lost its availability to that fluctuating field. But when you come to rest in the body and you come to rest on the earth and you feel that dilation into the present, it's like this helping hand is always there to guide you forward. It's a state in which you no longer need to make decisions, because you wait and you are carried, you are nudged, you are moved forward. And the word decision actually means to cut away. It's like incision, and it's one that tends to put us in a divided state, and then how to come back to the whole of your being and dilate into the world and feel its gentle guidance.
When we spoke of how darling babies are and how present and embodied they are, as children grow, when all the adults around them are in the head, do they have to go into the head in order to connect? Is this the first severance?
Yeah, it's a slippery slope. All that is modeled for them is living in the head, and they have to learn to live in the head. And that's, you look at our public education system, and the whole system is designed to suppress the body and anoint the head. And if you can't sit still in class as a 6-year-old, you get in trouble. And so you learn to shut this down. Well, if you're shutting the body's energy down, you're depressing its intelligence. And meanwhile, if you can fill your head with the right information, paying attention to the head of the class, then you'll be rewarded. So it's a 12-year process of reward and punishment that actually teaches us, without ever being overt about it, that you can think more clearly with this fragment of your intelligence than you can with the whole of your being. And I remember coming out of high school with that belief. Just concentrate in the head and I can solve anything. And it took the gentle, loving blows of life over and over to correct that false assumption in me.
So, how can we change education? How can we quit abusing our children and depriving of their natural body intelligence? What would you say would be the first step in that?
I mean, I think the first step is to recognize that every child is born with a unique cluster of gifts, a unique cluster of sensitivities, and they are curious. And those gifts want to exercise themselves and engage with the world. And any child cut loose on its own will want to learn. And maybe they won't want to learn the curriculum in the order in which it's presented in the classroom, but eventually they'll want to learn to read because they're interested in biology or they're interested in gaming or whatever it might be. But how to kindle the child's curiosity rather than stamping it with conformity and making it shuttle through a set curriculum. Boy, if we could do that, how our world would change.
I know the Montessori has put out a lot of geniuses, and they kind of approach it that way by engaging the child's imagination and letting them go where they are really drawn.
Yeah, and to allow their learning to be tactile, which automatically brings the body into it. It's not just an abstraction in the head.
Absolutely. So this is about the time of the show when I have to ask you, Philip, what is your mission?
I see the evolution of our consciousness as one that has carried us into an extremely contracted male bias. And to come back to the body is to, on a personal level, welcome and honor and embrace what is female within you. And then you're in a position to honor the world in a different way. And I think as long as our relationship with the body is top down, all of our relationships with the world around us will be top down. And that cannot carry us forward. That is eventually rendered toxic by what it encourages.
Mm. How do you feel about physical health? How would that be impacted by being more present in the body?
There's research that was done recently that shows that muscle doesn't just move us around. Muscle, when it works, it creates messenger molecules that affect the health of everything in the body, and your brain acuity, your bone mineral density, your organ health, everything. So we've gone, in terms of health, muscle and muscle health are the foundation of metabolic health. And your vitality, it's not a contained thing. It is a relationship with the world that enables you to engage with it. And I think, to stay healthy throughout your life and strong throughout your life, in some funny way, it's what the world is asking of us.
I know that when people work with essential oils, they're bringing the fragrances that cross the blood-brain barrier, mind you. They're bringing the fragrances forth to bring a rebalance, and which makes me wonder, and I'm asking you, does being more present in your body allow you to absorb the corrections you need from your environment?
I mean, I think it's a huge help. To be present in your body is to experience its fluidity and its spaciousness, and then there is room within you for to be touched, to be informed, for the present to move through you, and you're not contracted in your head trying to figure out what is best. You are guided by the subtlest of signals from the world around you.
Well, what's your vision of the world? What's it going to be like as we become more embodied?
Um, as we become more embodied, I think everything would change. We would understand in an experiential way the concept of enough. Right now, we've obliterated it. What's enough money? There's no number. What's enough knowledge? There's no amount. We need more. We need more. We need more. And to come back to the body is to feel the present. Just being here is enough. And then we can move from consumption to service. And it's in service that our purpose is fulfilled, that our life is gratified, and the world needs our care. People, animals, trees need our care, and I think each one of us is called into service in a different way, but it's through the body that is found. Once that emptiness has come to rest within us, and that quality of attuning to the world. And
Unfortunately, Philip, we're out of time.
we're there. Well,
We're there. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's been such a treat being with you.
And a real pleasure.
Thank you so much for this.
Thank you. Our guest this hour has been Philip Shepard, the originator of the Embodied Present Process and author of New Self, New World, Radical Wholeness, and Deep Fitness. His website is embodiedpresent.com. I have to think of it. This has been Mission Evolution with Gwilda Wiyaka. For more information, visit our past episodes. Visit www.missionevolution.org. Join us here next time as this mission will continue.